Well, hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Reichert. My pronouns are she and her. I am the Career and Professional Development Lead with People and Organization Development, a team within People and Culture, and I want to welcome you all to Finding Zen in Chaos. And this is truly an encore to our Encore series offering of this workshop from last fall, in which I had some tech issues with capturing the full recording, and Samorn has been so gracious and generous in offering this workshop again today, in which we are going to record successfully. And to all of you out there watching the recording, yay, we were successful. And it is my joy and thrill to introduce Samorn, today's workshop presenter. Samorn Selim is the CEO of Career Unicorns. She has successfully worked with over 1,000 clients to land dream jobs and get promotions and negotiate raises. And Samorn has presented at numerous companies and organizations, including at Google, at the UC Office of the President, at many nonprofits, including Dress for Success, the National Association for Law Placement, Paul Hastings and Wilson Sonsini. She was an attorney at Manat, Phelps, and Phillips. And Samorn is a former UC Berkeley employee and also a Cal alum, in which Samorn was an undergrad here and also graduated from Berkeley Law. Samorn is also an author. She has written a few books, including Belonging, Self-Love Lessons from a Workaholic, Depressed, Insomniac Lawyer, and Transform Your Career from Dread to Joy, a guide. And she's just completed her newest book, 1,000 Paper Cuts. As if that's not enough, Samorn has also just launched a new podcast. It's called Career Unicorns, Spark Your Joy podcast. You can find it on anywhere that you listen to podcasts. And if you connect with Samorn on LinkedIn, you'll see the postings to those podcasts. So that's a nice, easy way to find them as well. And Samorn was just recently acknowledged as one of Forbes' top 11 coaches of color to work with. So in addition to all of that, Samorn has been very generous in offering her time and her expertise in being involved with our NOW conferences as a presenter and a coach, and being here for some of our staff career development workshops. And mainly, I just want to thank Samorn for being an amazing colleague, coach, and friend. And we have this time together to learn from Samorn as she creates this space to support us in finding Zen in chaos. Samorn, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks so much for the kind introduction, Lisa. I really appreciate it. Lisa and I actually met many years ago when we were both presenters and career coaches at the NOW conference, the Next Opportunity at Work conference. So it's really great to come full circle. And yes, I am a triple bear, go Bears. I went here for undergrad law school and came back to work here as Director of Employee Outreach at the law school. And everybody says like, oh, it's just a matter of time you're going to come back. So I don't know. But I'm back here every year helping out with the NOW conference. So I'm excited to welcome everybody. I also want to thank Lisa for putting this together. I know she has an extraordinary amount of work, especially given what's going on with the pandemic and a lot of the changes, and for you to continuously to be able to provide this for staff during these challenging times is really meaningful. And of course, thanking Berkeley for putting this on, because I know it takes a lot to invest in staff and making sure that there's still spaces for us to share safely and vulnerably and to really talk about things that are impacting our lives and our careers that we may not have a chance to do in our day-to-day lives. And lastly, I want to thank all of you for making the time to come out. I know you have so many things going on in your personal life. You also have so many other things going on at work, and it's easy to just put yourself last, because I know the idea of wanting to be a public servant and you're at this organization because you want to serve others. And often what that means is we forget to serve ourselves or to put our own self-care first. So many congrats to you. And if you can, if you're able to, we'd love for you to be on video, because it's amazing to see your lovely faces. It also gives us a chance to build community, especially when most of us are doing remote work. And if you can raise your hand. and just pat yourselves on the back for being here. Because I think it's a big thing, and sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for all the good that we're doing, and also cheering ourselves on for making sure that we're also taking care of our self-care. So welcome again. What I love to do, since the group is small enough where we can all do a quick introduction, is just to do a quick sentence introducing yourself, and one sentence on what you hope to get out of the workshop, and then you can popcorn it to the next person. So for me, the reason why I do these workshops is because I believe strongly in us taking care of ourselves. I'm somebody who has been diagnosed with severe depression and bipolar, and I know that taking care of our mental health and wellness is really critical and is the most important thing for us to be able to be our best selves, and then also to be able to contribute in whatever ways you want, whether it's as a community member, as somebody who is an employee or a boss or a parent or a sister or a daughter, whatever you identify as. So that's why I do these workshops, because I think it's important for us to have space to share vulnerably, and also there is a lot of power in having community. And I will pass it to Lisa to introduce herself and to share what she hopes to get out of the workshop.
Thanks, Samorn. Since I have already introduced myself, I will share that what I would love to get out of the workshop is just knowing that this workshop provided just like a safe, refreshing, energizing space for all of you. So that's why I love to do the work that I do, is I love to support staff with thriving here and thinking about your own career development and journey and what will help you to be successful. So if you leave with one new tool or practice that will support you, then I will feel very excited about that outcome.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for sharing. I know this is a time that could be considered stressful for others. And, it is a challenging time, right? We've had a lot of things going on with the elections. We've had a pandemic that nobody knew would be this long. We've also had a lot of issues with Black Lives Matter, police brutality, the rise in Asian hate crimes, and so many other things, right? Like as a parent, we just had a COVID scare at daycare, and the unpredictability of whether or not you're going to have childcare is just so hard as a parent, especially if you're working in a household where everybody's working. So you have to scramble to kind of figure that out. And you also don't know when it's going to close again because we have no control. And so it seems like a lot of us have experienced some forms of anxiety or some forms of chaos, so to speak. Some of you mentioned that. And I think I really appreciate sharing about your own mental health issues as well, because often that's not a place where work is not a place where we can discuss those things openly, or there isn't as much space because everybody's so busy. And at the end of the day, we bring our whole selves to work, and that includes all parts of ourselves. And so when we have a mental illness that's diagnosed, it can be even more hard during these challenging times to really practice the self-care. And it's just a reminder that we have to really work on creating community, creating safe spaces, and just doing the hard work of really bringing ourselves to take care of ourselves. Because like I mentioned in the beginning, often neglecting our own needs is the first thing that kind of goes when you are a public servant, or if you're a parent especially, or maybe you're responsible for taking care of others through your job or through your own life, or you're leading a team. And so it's just a kind reminder that when you can have compassion with yourself and grace with yourself, and when you take care of yourself, you can show up as your best self, and that will allow you to be a better leader, a better teammate, a better human being, really, and everything else that you shoulder in your life as responsibilities as well. So for today, what we're going to do is really provide a time for us to have a little bit of time to gather mindfulness, and then we're going to do a little short exercise where it's going to be written exercise where you have time to reflect, because we're all in different stages of our lives, so it makes the most sense for us to be reflecting on these questions on our own. And then we'll wrap up with some group reflections, and we can end the session there. I know the session is short, it's only an hour, but given everybody's time constraints, this is what we can do. And if it makes sense to do a follow-up session, we can always do that, and Lisa can contact me about that. Does that sound good to everybody? Thumbs up. Yeah, okay. Great. So what I love for us to do now is if you're sitting down, feel free to go ahead and put your hands on your laps, palms facing up, and close your eyes. And if you're standing, you can just have your hands on the side. And we're just going to take this time to reconnect with our body and our breath, breathing in slowly in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you notice that you have any thoughts, note that that is actually normal. Recognize those thoughts and gently let them know that you can return to them later. Now is the time for you to connect with your body and your breath. Continue to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. We're going to do a body scan just so you can be in touch with your body, starting from your head, your eyes, your jaws, your tongue, your neck and shoulders. If you notice any area that's tight, gently acknowledge it and breathe into that area and just try to loosen it. Maybe you can roll your shoulders and let it drop. Whatever it is that you feel can loosen up that tightness. Continuing down your body, down your back, your legs, your knees, your ankles, and your toes. Again, if you notice any area that's a little bit tense or tight, gently acknowledge it and breathe some compassion into that area. Raise your right hand and place it on your heart. Raise your left hand and place it on your belly. Continue to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you can, try to focus on the breath on your belly. Less breathing through the chest and more deep breathing through the belly, through your diaphragm. Feeling the rise and fall of your belly with each breath. Continue to breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Whatever thoughts you may have, whatever anxiety you may have, whatever might be on your to-do list, gently acknowledge them and let them know you can return to them later. Now is the time for you to connect with your body and your breath, feeling the rise and fall of your breath on your belly. Take a few more deep breaths. And when you're ready, gently put your hands over your eyes and gently open your eyes. How is that for everyone? Good. Okay, that's a great. Good. Yeah, I just wanted to lead us through I see a lot of thumbs up, thank you. I wanted to lead us through a exercise. Christina said it's grounding and relaxing. That is short, but also impactful because many of us here express that sometimes we're living in chaos or sometimes you feel like you've neglected your self-care. And part of that is, you may think that self-care will take a really long time, but really what this exercise that took a couple minutes showed is that you can really take a few deep breaths, get yourself to connect with your body and your breath and really ground yourself. And what studies show is that 1 minute of deep breathing every day consistently is more effective than breathing for 20 minutes once a week. There was this research that they did with the military, and what military officers said was that they were able to respond to very difficult and critical situations with much more clarity and calm because of their practice. And so hopefully this is something that you can build into your life. As a pro tip, what I do is I set my phone to 1 minute, and I literally just breathe first thing in the morning, and then I do it right before bed. And I noticed that just doing that exercise twice a day makes such a big impact on our lives. And so I hope that that's something that you can incorporate into your life, or whatever time you think, could work for you. But just a kind reminder that, hey, as chaos is going on around us, we have no control over a lot of the chaos that's out there. We don't know when the pandemic will end. We don't know, if the childcare will be open because of this, or other issues are going to come up. There might be a crisis at work. There might be a crisis at home. But what we do know is that we can allocate 1 to 2 minutes a day to really do the deep breathing. And what I love for us to do now is to do a written exercise where we're going to self-reflect and journal. And one of the biggest practices in life that you can do that can really help with your mental wellness is really just taking a few minutes each day to put pen to paper. If you don't have a pen, doing it on the computer is fine, but there is something that's somatic about writing it out that studies have shown to be very helpful, especially when addressing your mental health. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the questions in here into the box, and then I'll put the second set of questions in here. And what these questions are really about are getting you to take some time in your lives to really think about your current relationship with Zen and chaos in your life, how chaos is finding its way into your life, what you'd like to invite more into your life. And so you'll see there's a list of about 8 to 10 questions here. And what I will do is I will put a timer on for 10 minutes for us to journal. And once we're done with the 10 minutes, I will gather the group to reflect. One thing to remind yourself of is it's supposed to be a whatever comes to your mind. It's not supposed to be this deep exercise to find the right answers. That's why we're doing it in such a short amount of time. And if you find that you want to do more of these questions on your own, you're welcome to that as well. But again, I would encourage to put a time box on it. That way you're actually like really dealing with what comes to mind, as opposed to thinking about like, is this the right answer, or overanalyzing it. Does that sound good to everybody? Okay, great. I see some head nods. I'll put the timer on for 10 minutes and feel free to write. So some of you might have finished the exercise early, and I see some of you might still be writing. Wherever you are, just know that that's okay, and you have the questions with you, so you can always return to them later. Lisa asked the question, what does Zen mean? And the reason why I didn't necessarily define it for the group is because I think that's a very personal question, and that means so many different things to different people, right? But essentially, I think for me, ultimately what Zen means is not that everything is perfect and normal and everything is going swimmingly, but it's more so that in spite of the chaos, in spite of the noise, in spite of the stress, we are all able to still find a place where we can feel calm and feel like we can manage the situation no matter what comes our way, because we are resourceful enough to do it. And as you explore the journaling questions, hopefully that question did come up for you, because it can mean different things in different times. Like when I'm with my toddler, Zen means that like I can count to 10 and I'm not gonna like get upset because he's like throwing a tantrum, and just be like, he's 3, he's gonna throw a tantrum and that's normal. Versus like, there might be like a critical situation at work where a leader calls me and it's like, oh my God, this employee left and stole all of our trade secrets. What are we going to do? That's a different kind of Zen that I have to hold, which is to, acknowledge that his or her fears, acknowledge that, this is a serious situation, and what are the facts? What are the actions we can take to move forward to protect your company, yourself, and things like that. So it will depend on the context that you're in. And I think because we all live such rich and diverse lives, we have different meanings around it. So we have about 15 minutes left with each other. And one of the things that really resonated with a lot of people in the group is that you're using this time also to connect with the community at Cal, especially if you're doing remote work. So what I love to open it up to is for anyone to unmute themselves and share what they feel comfortable sharing, either something things that came up for you, maybe some takeaways that you got from it. And if you don't want to share, that's totally okay as well. There's definitely no pressure to share here. So if anybody wants to volunteer, feel free to go ahead and unmute yourself and share to the group. That's a wonderful reflection, and also appreciate you sharing that there are apps that are free for Cal employees like Headspace. And then if you are a member of Kaiser, and I know Cal provides Kaiser as one of the insurance options, you also have access to an app called Calm. And then if you're looking for additional free app, there's something called Insight Timer. And all of these apps have different types of meditations, whether it's for sleep, stress, or other anxiety inducing things. And they just have different types of reflections. And then one of the people that I listen to regularly is Tara Brach. She has, you know, a lot of meditations around having compassion for ourselves and how to have self-love or self-forgiveness. And what I really love about her meditations is she really talks about it in a way that acknowledges how difficult life can be. Like if you have a mental illness, or if you had a loss in your family, and just acknowledging that, and how do you still find a way to ground yourself and move forward. So thanks again. When you become a mom, your entire life is totally changed, right? You might have a vision of reading all these books and you're going to prepare this way and sleep train them or whatever you decide to do, and it never happens that way. And having a baby definitely is something to remind us that we have no control. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I think one of the things to really focus on is, like you said, adapting to the situation. So for example, my toddler has decided that he's going to wake up at 6 a.m. now, which I used to have from 6 to 8 a.m. to do my self-care, my journal, my exercising, and then my like shower and writing, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do with these 2 hours? And literally what I do is I just bring my journal up and ask him to journal with me. And he interrupts me every like minute. And that can be a little annoying at times, but I just tell him like, mommy loves you too, but mommy needs 5 minutes of quiet. And then he gets better every day. And then some days he reverts. You just kind of have to enjoy that. And I think instead of doing like the whole full minute, sometimes I'll just do like, let's do 10 deep breaths together. And he has a little tent that he goes to that he breathes in. And so he'll say like, let's go to his tent. But he only wants to do 3 breaths. And then you kind of have to negotiate that too. But yeah, there's definitely like ways in which we have to change and adapt. And I think hopefully that's a lesson to everybody else too, as you know, things are changing. You might have been used to going to work every day and you listen to your podcast on your way to work and you get your 20-minute walk because you're walking from BART to campus, and you don't have that. So how do you incorporate it? Maybe instead of a Zoom meeting, you take a phone call meeting and you're walking with the other person on a call instead. And that could be one other way to do it. But yes, definitely inviting everybody to think about creativity and how you might still build things into your life, but not make it so hard that you can't do it. Make it an easy part of your life. I think many of us are looking for that, looking for community. And, you know, there's been so many research studies that show that Americans and people worldwide are very much experiencing loneliness. And you can still feel lonely even when you're with people at a social gathering, because it doesn't feel like there's a deep connection. So I think that's something that many of us are still thinking about. I know for me, I have a women's passion planning group that one of my friends started, and we basically meet monthly every month for the last 2 years, ever since the pandemic started. And I've recently started a women's financial mindfulness group, which Lisa actually sometimes attends. And part of it is for us to also have like a safe space as women in particular to share about our finances, because it's often not a topic that is discussed. And what studies show is that in most households, women don't actually manage the finances. And so it's just creating a safe space for us to still feel empowered about our money and how we think about it in terms of our career and in terms of our lives as well. So hopefully you'll be able to join your Sangha or join some other community that makes you feel like you're a part of that community. Yeah, definitely letting things go is a big piece of this, especially when you realize whatever it is that's coming up that is completely out of your control, right? So like for a new parent, it might be like, you can't really control if your child's going to sleep 8 hours a night. They just won't when they're born. But you can, you know, make decisions of like, this is how I might approach how to sleep train if that's the direction that you decide, or that I might get another resource where somebody comes in for the night time, or I create a shift with my husband and say like, I'm up from, midnight to 4, and then you're up from 4 to 8, and kind of split the shift in that way. So there's always things that are in your power that you can manage to make the situation better, but there are definitely things outside of your control, like whether the pandemic is going to happen. Things like you don't know if the deans of your school is going to close campus because there's a new situation coming up. Things like you don't know if, like in my case, I'm doing construction right now, and the reason why I have my background on is I'm actually recording this in my closet because it's the only place that doesn't have banging and sawing. And I figure like finding zen in chaos, you probably shouldn't have sawing all night, the whole entire workshop, right? So that's why I usually don't have my headphones and on or background, but because of the situation, you just make do with it, right? And so yeah, if you saw the background, it'd be comical. It's all like clothes and everything here, but that's another thing. But yeah, I think we all have to constantly evaluate our capacity. And I say this especially for those of us who have been diagnosed with mental illness as well, is to constantly evaluate your capacity during that time. And when you are mentally well, whether you have a diagnosis or not, you're likely to be able to handle a lot more. But if you are in a place where, you are feeling more tired, there's a lot going on, then you do have to make some strategic decisions to say, you know what, I'm going to have to let go some of these things in order to take care of myself. For example, when I had a child and I had severe postpartum depression, which was a period where I had a lot of shame because you're supposed to be happy as a parent, but postpartum depression doesn't have logic. You have it and you have it. And one of the things we decided was that we were just going to order out for 6 months because I didn't have the capacity with an emergency C-section to physically cook anyways. And I didn't have the emotional capacity because I was dealing with this very serious mental illness that many women experience after birth. So I want to leave you with that because I know we have to hop off at 1, but I hope that the main message you take away is that first and foremost, you can incorporate small things into your life, like 1 minute of breathing, to create mindfulness and zen in your life. The second thing is to have like compassion and grace with yourself. We are all going through very challenging times, and your pain or your anxiety or whatever you're dealing with is real. And there's no race to the bottom of who has more issues. It's really like acknowledging where you're at and also acknowledging that you can still give yourself compassion and grace. And then lastly, really managing what is in your control and what you're able to let go of, and taking action on the things that you can do. So I'll pass it back to Lisa because I'm sure she has some things to wrap up with.
Thank you, Samorn, for creating such a safe and engaging space for us to reflect and really think about, the meaning of Zen in our lives and chaos and ways to manage it. And thank you all for sharing and engaging. I think what was very powerful about today as well is just the honesty and candor of people sharing what's going on, in our lives and some of those challenges and ways to manage. And thank you also for the resources. So I will compile a list. I believe Samorn has a handout that she's going to share with me that I will pass on.